Welcome everyone. I hope you're having a great day as well. What me and Federico are going to be talking about today is remember at the challenge. What we do is we host two different webinars. One of them is a workshop, so this is going to be the workshop one, and then there's also the top five announcement where we go through the top five reports, we explain them, we talk about the good things, the bad things, maybe something that we found very interesting, and basically giving our feedback. So those are the main two things. During the workshops, there's different focuses. Depends on what you guys are asking for, which is one of the reasons why I highly encourage you to fill in the feedback forms. Because based on that feedback, me and Federico also try to kind of adapt and see, okay, what we can kind of give you from this topic about this particular case or something like that, right? Because it's not always just about Power BI directly, right? Like, for example, sometimes Federico talks about Figma, for example, how to create layouts. Sometimes I talk a bit more about the back end of things. And, you know, it depends on what you are asking for. So the more you tell us, the easier it is for us to prepare a content that is actually relevant to you. That is the one thing. What else? If you could also reshare the webinar itself on LinkedIn, for example, if you're watching it from there, that would be also be greatly appreciated. More people means more fun, means more communication actually happening, and the more the merrier, like they say, right? What else? I don't know. We're probably going to be good to start pretty soon. But yeah, when you are participating in the feedback, where you're providing the feedback, one thing that me and Federico have always agreed upon, right? How much was it? 10% or 15?
Yeah, yeah, give you a 20% or something like that.
Okay, we were going to be doing 20%. So there's always a 20% chance increase in winning the challenge. This is an unwritten rule. Me and Federico always agree on it, but it's not written down.
Yeah,
So that's something for you as well. But yeah, for package books, the one good thing about it is if you're starting off, or even if you are already a data analyst and working with your actual data sets and for a company, these books come in handy from time to time because they cover different topics. They start from data modeling into SQL databases and a lot of different other topics. So
okay.
a big variety of options.
Okay. A big thank you, a big hello to Rafa Gonzalez. I don't know if it's in the chat. Rafa is an
Yeah, can
MVP
use it.
and
Yep.
is a crazy nut about Power Query. So if you're not connected to him, you are wasting your time. With the only thing that he only do it in Spanish. So he's an Spanish MVP. Power Query is fantastic. Hello.
There you go, guys. A new face to follow. Always good to see these people. But yeah, I guess we can pretty much start then. I don't know how you want to do this time, Federico. Do you want to start with what you had prepared, or
Yes, it's up to you. Okay, you go first. I go second.
no? No,
Or you or I go first. I don't mind. You
go
you
ahead.
decide. Go ahead. Okay, guys. Let me now try to find what I'm looking for.
And the technical sides of things, right? There's always a little bit of. There we go.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna change the screen. I'm gonna put my Power BI report in front. Okay, now we are okay. So I don't have in project management. I don't have much idea about what do I do with this data set. Um, so the first thing I did yesterday is just drop the data set into ChatGPT, and I said, listen, I want to prepare a matrix. Okay, that give me this and that, and that. What do you suggest? And he told me not what to do, but what actually hierarchies and columns, and it will be nice. Then I open my Power BI, loaded the data, model it, and decide to do what you have on the screen. And I think the point is, if I go to a matrix, I'm gonna enter anything here. Yes, I don't. Okay, let's go here. And then you start adding things, and you can see it's very basic. Okay, the point I try to make today is that you can go from something very, very simple okay, to something a little bit more professional and beautiful. Okay, better looking. Okay, so let me tell you what I did. The first, filters. So I put 4 filters: project country, employee name, task status, and project status. And in the title of the matrix is dynamic, so you say that Agnieszka. Okay, so Agnieszka nation appear there. You say the country Denmark. I don't know if Agnieszka is from Denmark or not, but you have a dynamic title that at the same time, to be dynamic, it tells you what filters you are using. Nothing complicated, guys. The measure it look complicated, but it is not really the same measure for the filters you have on your screen. Okay, guys, that is very simple to do. Remember, ChatGPT is very good for that. Okay, and after that, I decided that, well, that is the best, okay, hierarchy that I can use. Project delivery, department, sorry, project ID and task name. Guys, when we put hierarchies, okay, it's gonna show you always the first hierarchy there. What I did is to change the title of that row to enter every single, okay, hierarchy, so it's show, okay, here in this in the title. I changed the name of the title to look better, okay, and then here where all the work comes. Layout, none, guys. Metrics, automatically layout, none. It gives you a blank canvas, okay? You might need to go and get rid of some of the grid, okay? Might have no grid at all. Row padding, that's the difference between the rows. Important. I normally always use it very much to give it some space, some breathing room, okay? So that is my first step. When I have my data or my columns in the matrix, I go to auto and make sure the auto size width is switched off. Why? I'm gonna give it the size I want to manually, but I don't want to be dynamic that this move every time I click a filter. Sorry. So no matter what I filter here now, that will not move on width. Give me a second. Values. I give the proper values and I make sure the background. When we have hierarchy, I don't like to put different color in the background. So everything is white background, and black text. Size 14. Get a size that you think is okay. I pick the blank row. You will see that this moving. And it give me an extra space between project, between categories, I think. Yeah, that is the blank row. And give me a bit more space. And now, if I close all this, I think I can go all the way up here. Okay, we have 3 departments, and there is a special row that gives me some more room to breathe. You can play. The idea is that you play with that until you're happy with. Okay, you might use it, you might not use it, you don't want to. Column headers, you can put the background. Row headers, the same, make sure they have the same size. That is doing nothing there. And now we start with the, I don't need the column. I'm not giving the total because most of the information I have there, date or text. There is no point for me to have any totals in there, so it's off. And the rows to total should be off too. But then I miss a couple of things. So, okay? And then we go to specific columns. I do quite a lot of work here. That allows me to go column by column, okay, and formatting it the way I want it. In this case, excuse me, the main style is to have everything centered. I'm not really representing number that have to be on the right or text on the left. It's more a way for me or for my people to follow. And the project status, I go for every one of them and make sure they are all the same. You might decide that project status is on the left. Okay, that is up to you. But I go through every single column and try to give you a format that is okay with me. And then we have this one. That one is the cool one, okay? So you can see I have the complete, so the task status with different purple colors to indicate if they are complete, they are in progress, or not started, okay? And for that, as you can see, I got the background color of the project, give me the task, that one. It's the same. If I open it, very simple, guys, look at this. Okay, so I go formatting on the rules. That is based on what column, and then you enter here the text yourself. And you give the color you want to add. If I go, now complete will be green. Do I have green? I don't have green. Let me make in progress, yellow. No started, red. If I do that, okay, it's that simple. Try to get something nice, maybe for this kind of thing, pastel color, or this purple to follow with the brown color will be okay. And I do the same, guys, for the project status. It's the same rule with the variation that I have 4 different statuses, okay, here in this case. Guys, that's simple, because it's text, it allows you to write a key text. Hello, they will fail, but for you to see. Don't have to go crazy with majors or any crazy formatting. It's that simple. And then you can see the task priority. I have done the same, guys, but this time I apply to the font color. Yeah. And again, I use the same way of formatting. So the idea, guys, is to make of this something nicer, better for the user to see, to experience, and to work with. Of course, if you are within the project management business, you know, okay, what hierarchy you're going to use, you know what columns are important. Are you tracking dates or start and finish? Are you tracking statuses? Are you tracking? That is up to you. I'm not going to get in there at all. That's for you guys to decide. But what I did is, as I told you, I throw the dataset to ChatGPT and inquiry. Okay, so what can we do with this? Good idea to have the filters in there. I don't like to have things close. I don't know why. I got some. But everything is filtered. Okay, you check that everything filter. So for Agnieszka, we have this project, we have this task, we have all this. Hi, or what she has done, and the money she generates doing this task. and they say everything is dynamic, it's working. Let's say in progress here. No, let's say complete. Okay. So there you go. You got a project that is fully complete. You got all the information you need to have. Okay, and it is very simple matrix to create when you enter into the logic or what you try to do. I want to make this a little bit nicer. I'm not sure about the title in purple, but hey, here you are. And another little thing I wanted to say is that you can use, no, in the, where is the, that one? You have data bars in here, okay? I go and measure for the budget, that is this one. To create just the bar, you need to do a second measure, call it per budget bar. Put that, okay, on the matrix. When you are doing this, you only want to show the bar. That's an example, but in one column you have all the number, in the other column you have the bar. Okay, there you go. Another little thing that actually people might like it. Okay, and if you have positive and negative number, you will see the negative red and the positive green going to the other side. Actually, it look quite like a proper finance stuff. So remember, guys, it's all about coming here and start playing. For me, the most important step is this one, guy. Style, no. Give me a blank canvas. And then I start working. Do I want this to be a background or just a line? That's up to you, how you like it. And remember, guys, there is no right or wrong. There is no nicer or less nicer. It's what you think it is okay and what your client think it is okay. And play around, guys. Another important, remember the auto? As soon as you can, when you have everything positioned in order and the size, remember to switch it off. So that for me are the two most important things to remember when creating a nice matrix. That's it, guys. Play with it. Don't give me a normal matrix. Don't give me this, please. Don't give me that. Okay, that is very lazy. You can do with that this, and I think that is a lot nicer for you, to your employer. I can do that, and the end user might say, okay, yes, I can be 10 minutes looking at this because it looks really, really good. Okay, so Aivis, that is me today. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we can all agree that everything that Federico showcased was great, right? Because at the end of the day, that's one of the things that is basically going to allow you to kind of differentiate yourself out there. Because creating a very basic table, we can all do it, just or a matrix. Just add a visual, plop in some different columns, and be like, yeah, it should work, right? We can all do that. But at the end of the day, we have to kind of figure out, okay, what works specifically for my customer? What is the focus of that particular table? How do I focus on that? How do I highlight certain things? And the one thing that's definitely important for a table, and I think Federico mentioned this as well, you do not want to create a feeling that everything is important. Because we have had those tables, right, where basically for every single column you add conditional formatting. So for me, it gives an impression that everything is important, but at the same time, it means that nothing is really important. Everything's kind of, you need to know it, sure, but nothing's very important. So pay attention to these small little details, because as we've always said, you can only make the first impression once. So the better is the entry point, the easier it is to convince it afterwards.
Yeah, do a little bit of research, or you're
Yeah.
starting to do what about project management? What is important for these people to see what they want to? Okay, and based on that, you can start working instead of just throwing things into it. Because it happened to me. When I opened the Power BI, I was doing it. I said, okay, what is important for these people, Federico? No, I don't. So I had to go and do some research and talk to ChatGPT until it prepared me and give me some kind of solid matrix. I'm sure it can be 100% better, but do your research.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to just play around with things. You don't always have to create the perfect variation the first time you try. No, create one version, play around, keep it, take a copy, move it to another page, create, for example, slight modifications, and just see, okay, I think I kind of like the second one a bit more. But one of my suggestions is, and this is what I always try to explain, do not delete your work in progress straight away as soon as you decide that, oh, I want to try a different thing, right? Because sometimes recreating everything takes a lot more time than just keeping a separate page with version one, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah,
5.
yeah, duplicate pages, guys. That happen. Duplicate pages and do your new ID in the other page because you want to come back to the other one, you still have it there.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, when you're finalizing the report, that's the moment when you put everything together, you get rid of everything that is unneeded, you keep a clean, nice report. But when you're developing, I can guarantee you, this is how reports usually look like. You have random cards, you have random
Oh
tables where
yeah,
people are trying to understand if the measures are working correctly, if the context is getting captured correctly. Every single report that we have developed as well here, when we're creating it for a customer, our development work has random pages with random calculations, random checks, and everything just to make sure that everything works as we expect it to do. The final report has nothing, none of those things. But for developers, it's important to keep track of things.
and we
And
need to test. We need to test. Filter. Are all the filter testing? Are they dynamic? Are they do? So I always have a filter test page and test
yeah,
one,
yeah,
test two, test three, test 25 until I say I go this way. But that's how it is. The
and like
idea that
we,
your client, the idea that your client is gonna tell what they want is between bracket guy utopia. They don't know what they want. You have to connect to. You have to work on something, show to them, and they will start giving you some more feedback when they see something.
yeah,
Okay. So remember, when people ask for the requirement, yeah, the requirement are make a report.
yes. No, no, you missed one part, very crucial part, Federico. Make a good report.
Yeah, make a good report. That is the requirement. Okay, thank you for that was so deep.
But it is the reality. So yeah, just play around with your reports and everything. Like for example, one of the things that I was playing around with when creating this sample, for example, is I wanted to focus on the projects and basically the actual execution to see the actuals versus budgets, how far are we from the actual execution and so forth. And one of the things that if you, for example, filter things out by status, most of the time you're gonna come across a situation where the projects that are currently not started, you do not want to take them into account because you just want to focus, okay, from what we've done so far, how does it look like, right? Are we, for example, over the budget already, over under the budget? Is there any room for mistakes or anything? So there's one thing that we also did for the donut chart to kind of help you with this a little bit. So you've always had the option of, for example, creating a selection based on just clicking on a slice, right? Or holding down control and creating a multi-select, right? That options has always been there. We also gave you the option of inverting a selection. So if you have selected two different slices, you can triple click on them and that inverts the selection. And now we added another interaction option, and that is if you just have, let's say, multiple categories or multiple slices, and you want to deselect some of them but take into account everything else, you now have a new option which is Shift plus Control. And if I click on Not Started, see what happens? So Not Started is not selected, but it selects everything else around it. So instead of me selecting three different slices, I can easily say, okay, but how does it look like without the Not Started? So this is just another interaction that we have implemented for the donut chart to make your lives a little bit easier. Yeah, Federico. Think you're
Can you do
muted.
it? Can you do it with two slices? Can you
Yeah, you
do?
can still hold down control and then you can
Okay,
move them up and down.
excellent, excellent.
So even if you, for example, decide that, okay, I don't want to have no started, you know what? I also want to exclude deleted, so you can keep hold of the control and just add more if it's necessary. So yeah,
Excellent.
something new as well. What else? We have implemented a color field for a donut chart. I know for some of you It was our initial reaction as well. I mean, color field for a donut chart kind of seems weird because you don't really have things like conditional formatting or anything, right? You can, but that's not a typical use case. So you can use it, of course, for conditional formatting, but one of the capabilities that we implemented with the color field is if you are using it. So what I'm doing here is basically I'm referencing it based on status. Let's see if I make a table. Status color, different status probably. But if I show you the measure, so what I'm doing essentially is I'm saying, oh, sorry, not the status, but the risk level. If the risk level is high, it's going to be red. If it's medium, it's orange. If it's low, it's green, right? I'm predefining the colors. And the way on how we implemented it now with the color field is that you have the option of saying that, hey, this color actually controls the underlying slices. So whenever you go under one particular color, you can see that it follows the parent color basically. So this allows you also to have a lot nicer designs where it comes to the gradient colors and so forth to kind of have a little bit more flexibility to design aspect to the donut chart. Uh, as far as the charts itself go, like I said, I wanted to focus on the actuals versus a budget. So there are a few things that I wanted to see straight away. I wanted to see the actual number. I wanted to see the plan number. I wanted to see the actual usage. So I wanted to understand how much of my money is already spent and how much is actually left money wise. I mean, having percentages back and forth, you could do it, but not necessary. So I kind of went with two different values, right? I went with the percentage usage and the actual number that is left, basically. Same goes for hours. So two primary focuses that I have here is either I'm talking about the budget or I'm talking about the timeline. So with bookmarks, I can easily switch between two different views. So this is going to be about hours. This is going to be about budget, so euros. Probably purely from a visual perspective, I would also try to kind of maybe highlight the cars that are getting affected by it. So kind of to showcase what the focus is. But the main thing that I wanted to kind of play around here is the bookmarks because you can achieve the same result with field parameters, but it is a little bit tricky because in this case I'm not really changing just a single value. If you see here actual budget, actual budget, planned budget, usage euros. If I switch to hours, I'm actually switching all these three fields, right? So you could do it with field parameters, but it is a little bit tricky. If you do it, congrats to you. It is definitely possible. We've done it similar cases as well, but I just did bookmarks to make it a little bit simpler. So switching between the two types of metrics. And the second thing is if you look at the brief, let's see if I have it open by hand. Yeah, I have it here. So here we had, for example, track project progress, completion rates, compare plan versus hours and costs, identify departments, regions. So we can see that there's a lot of different dimensions that are essentially available to us to cross-filter the information. So I didn't want to kind of limit the user just to one single entry point. So what I did, this is definitely not the greatest visual execution. This is just to showcase the point. I created a slicer which holds a parameter, and from the parameter, the user is able to define what is going to be the entry point. So, for example, I want to start off, let's say, with a country. From country, I want to go to department. So, by creating a selection, the user is actually defining the hierarchy of the chart. So, country, name, product name. And if I use the chart, there we go, back to country, down to product. And at any point of time, if they want to kind of play around with this, they can quickly reset just to make sure that everything's starting fresh and say, okay, I just want to focus on departments initially, right? And departments and then project IDs. Sorry, departments and then project IDs. So this allows me to understand which departments are most efficient. And if I open up them, I can see which projects are mostly efficient, which ones are already completed, which ones use the most hours, and so forth. The only thing that I would highly recommend when you're creating these sort of dynamic switches is make sure that there's a structure, that you're following something in particular. Don't leave it on just random things like names or something like that, right? So in my case, for example, what made the most sense, I think, is the actual either budget or total hours spent, because I want to see the projects which are taking the most out of my resources, whether it's money or time, or vice versa, right? If it would be actual usage, then just switch to the percentages and focus on those which are actually consuming the most of it. This is actual, like absolute numbers, those are relative numbers. So, yeah, that's one of the little things. Another thing, me and Federico have always told you, play around with your reports, see what happens if you start to interact with them, see if anything breaks, because those cases are going to come up eventually. So, my sort of playing around, what I discovered and what I tried to fix is the following. In the very beginning, I mentioned to you that, for example, not started is sort of a category that you sometimes leave out of the equation, right? And want to focus on what's already done. But, but vice versa, I could say that, hey, I want to focus on the not started projects. And you can see here, for budget, makes complete sense that nothing is being spent. But since we have the cards, I can see that there's actually 27 hours logged in projects that are supposed to be not started yet. So I might need to have either a drill through page or something. We could have the matrix table from Federico where I could see which tasks are actually taking those 27 hours. Because in reality, there's supposed to be zero here, right? These are not started projects, so how the hell somebody already spent 27 hours on it? Hey, but that's reality. And this is just what happens in real life as well. Sometimes it's just human error, right? Somebody started to work on a project but didn't change the status, for example, in a system or something. Data is data.
Yeah, it's entered by a human, so we
Yeah,
made mistake. Instead of 5, we put 50. There you go.
yeah,
You go 45 hours there. That where this come from? Okay, until you realize and you change it or address it. Hey, there is this problem, and people tell you, "Also, my mistake. I put a zero by mistake."
yeah. It's the same as people accidentally, for example, somebody meant to put in a comma but accidentally puts in a dot, which is a completely different syntax, and suddenly all the numbers don't make sense. It's human error that's possible in the data, and your job as a developer is just to clean it up to understand. Because if you notice something like this, it doesn't necessarily mean that something is wrong with the data itself. It just most likely means that there's an issue with the process of how things are getting updated. Right? It means that it's not automatic. It most likely is a manual entry process. So yeah, I can see that engineering has issues with this and customer support, and I can tell you from real life, it's most likely is like that because different departments tend to follow those processes when it comes to product and everything. It's the same for us. Our main thing is we just want to do the job and fix the things, right? So we sometimes forget to change the statuses of our projects when it's when we're actually working on it. But in reality, we've been working on it for like 5 6 hours already. It happens.
Yes.
So this is actually quite realistic, I would say. What else? This no data isn't actually something that's coming from a visual, although it might be something that we theoretically implement at some point. What would happen in reality is when I select not started and the timeline is based on the actual starting date, there's nothing to display, right? Since these projects are not started, so there's not a start date available. So what I did here is I didn't want to create a situation where you just have a massive blank area, because what that would happen is people would think that something is broken, something is not working. Blank or just an empty space doesn't feel like it's something you expect to happen. Our psychology says that something didn't work properly. So what I did is I just created a simple card, and within the card I created a measure. The measure is also again very simple. I just said, hey, if there's a case where the minimum you have to create an aggregate. You can't just select a value, or unless you create a calculated column. But in my case, I said, hey, if the minimum actual start date is blank, tell me no data. Otherwise, just give me a blank value. The reason why this blank value is important is because the two timelines are transparent. And I want to make sure that there's always an option to fully see the timeline. So, for example, if I select different status, you can see that no data is now visible. It's behind the timeline, but as soon as I select work, there's a case where there's no data available, it automatically triggers. So, this is why you think about, why you play around with these things, because not everything is going to be just, kind of given to you on a platter. You have to find these things.
That blank is below
The card?
the yes, no, it's below.
Yeah, the card is definitely below. The reason why it has to be below is because if I put it in front, what's going to happen is
It
if I
will
want
never
to
show it. No.
see,
Yeah, yeah. I used to do. I used to use something like that too. At some time, I had to go to the selection and change it again because it moved. It didn't
uh,
respect the layers, so that was a little bit of a pain in the
yeah,
butt.
thank God nowadays we have this option just to kind of force and make sure
Yeah,
that
correct.
maintain layer order.
Yeah,
Whereas when we didn't have it, you could kind of create similar fixes, but at the same time, it was a 50-50 chance of whether it's going to work or
it
not.
worked or not. Correct.
So it's getting a lot better on these sort of cases. But yeah, play around with your data, see what happens in certain scenarios. If you come across a situation where there's no data, you don't necessarily have to create something that is very simple, right? Like just no data. You can tell me why there's no data. Just tell me, for example, because everything is a text essentially, right? This is just a formula where I can write whatever I want. You can also provide me with an image because if it's a DAX formula, right, there's just not no data, but provide me, for example, with some error message or something that is predefined. So play around with these setups and everything. What else? Cross-chart filtering. That's what I usually like to have within every single report, just to make sure that I don't really have the same, let's say, dimensions across the table. But this allows me to kind of look deeper into particular aspects of what's available, right? And the funny thing is, I didn't realize it at the very beginning, but if you play around just with the, just gonna reset quickly. If we play around with the statuses, we can actually see that everything that is delayed and completed is almost last year and just the beginning of this year. Everything that is in progress is only from this year. So there is some reasoning behind the data, right? So it's not completely randomized. The other thing is, if we look at the delayed section, for example, the only thing that I would probably try to understand is how much of this work is planned to be consumed within a particular year or something. But playing around with these filters allows you, again, to uncover different scenarios to understand, for example, because here, yeah, sure, it's the same dimension, but I just wanted to play around with the drill down here. Like I said, you don't always have to keep everything. If you don't like this, for example, chart and you want to create variations, like me and Federico said, either you create a duplicate, or what I typically do is I just have so-called design pages where I know the chart where it's going to go, and I just say, okay, I could play around with this one. For the second one, you know what? I'm actually going to play around a bit more with the colors, maybe. Or actually, I don't like the size, the detail labels, for example. I want to make them smaller or something. Play around with, for example, the naming of it or these sort of things. So, yeah, just playing around with a bunch of different things and creating these designs, keeping a copy of them. And if I need it, I can always come back here, grab it, try it out. If it doesn't work, move on to the next one. And from my experience, what I usually do as well is, and this is something you can do for your submissions as well. When you're creating the final submission, always have one development file, so called, where you still have all those variations, and then have a clean file separately.
Yeah, that is version one.
Yeah,
You keep always version one. Keep it with you.
exactly. Because trust me, the amount of times that you can sometimes save just because you have these variations is ridiculous. It might seem, okay, just make a chart, make few adjustments. Yeah, but when you're working with, for example, like designer teams or something, they pay attention to everything, right? So for them, it's not just about the gray color. For them, or even for the slices, For them, they're going to go into fill color settings, say, okay, want to add a little bit of gradient. You know what, the gradient, I don't like it too much. There's going to be lightness adjustment. Now that's too high, so that's going to be 25. Next one's going to be 45. They're playing around with these visual cues, and you have to remember all of them. That's pretty much impossible. So
Yeah.
what you do is just have these versions available, have just a bunch of them stacked into one page, and come back to them and say, hey, so which one are we finally using at the end? This one? Fine. Put it in the report. The rest of them, I'll just keep them for the sake.
Yeah, keep it same. Actually, in my matrix, I started with the background in green, red, and yellow, and then I decided to go the purple,
Mhm.
different shade of purple. But that what happened. You start working on something, and then you start, okay, what happened if? And what happened if? It's not only for you, but you give a different view also to the end user. You might have a meeting, say, guys, do you like this one, or this one? Oh, we like number three. Okay, thank you. And you have one other point taking out the equation of requirements.
Mhm. Because your job as a developer is to kind of give them options, and they have to choose which one works. Sure, sometimes they're going to ask for something that wasn't in the list of options. That's fine. But like Federico said, the trickiest part about getting requests from customers is they don't know exactly what they want. They know they want a report.
Yep.
They know that, it should have some lines, some area charts or something. I want to see the revenue, they have general ideas, but the final execution is the part where you have to kind of create samples, give it to them, and say, hey, option A, B, or C. And they're going to be like, D. Okay, what is D? So we take this part from this and that part from that. Okay, sure, I'll make the fourth one. And the funny part is when you have those options even created, you put it in, they're like, you know what, let's go back to the first one. All right, and that's why you have your versions.
Let me take a little bit higher on that. I am on
Sure.
a project that work with the Spanish La Liga football teams. Okay, it's about tickets. No, to work, but it's about tickets and participants and events and all of that. Okay, so we talk to different things, Malaga, Valencia, and everyone have a different idea. So you cannot just pick up one idea and say, okay, I'm gonna do everything as Malaga Football Club like it, or Valencia or Real Madrid. What I'm gonna do is try to get all these ideas together and see how I can make happy all these people, okay, telling them, listen, that what you ask, all resume here. Somehow we try the best. Otherwise, you start listening to everybody and trying to implement everybody's idea, you will be in a total chaos.
Oh, yeah. That's one thing. And the other thing is what happens a lot of times if you listen to everybody, you're not really creating anything at that time. You're kind of just putting into ideas together. But
Yeah.
when you look at the report, you're like, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore because
And
you
then
have to
can the
stop.
director, and then can the director, that is a higher authority than this guy you have been talking to, and tell you, no, we don't like nothing like that, and you have to change it again.
Yeah,
Hey, that is
part of the
day to
job.
day, the part of the job. Correct.
Yeah. But yeah, play around with your values. What I did here is essentially I use the actuals versus the target. So the gray bar is the planned one, the green one, or the red one based on the condition. So, for example, if we're going for hours, let's say, and focus on delayed ones, or actually even completed ones. Yeah, let's focus on completed ones. So, on completed ones, you can see where I over exceeded what was planned, either in hours or budget. Those are going to be covered in red straight away. And this is one part where you have to be cautious as well. Because when you enable conditional formatting, the typical approach would be anything that's below is going to be red, everything that is above is going to be green. In this case, it's vice versa. Because what this percentage means is I'm over exceeding what was meant to be used.
Yeah.
So you have to adapt to the logic that you're actually creating. So pay attention to the rule sets and the colors that you're creating there. The same goes for value labels. I just stuck them to the top to kind of have them always there. I didn't want them to follow me. You know, it looks nice sometimes, but when you have a lot of variations in the values, I think it just creates a lot of unnecessary noise. because when you have to follow like up and down, try to figure out where it goes up and now I know it's always going to be here, and this is where I expect the value to be. So that's one part of it. Um, what else for the timeline as well? Don't forget that we also have the option of defining what are going to be the display periods. You don't need all of them. We did add a bunch of them as few additional options. So, for example, you can disable all and say, hey, I just want to have last year, last month, and maybe last quarter, just these three. So now here you just have all these options instead of having like 20 of them. It's your job as a developer to kind of make sure that there's not more than it's needed to be.
Correct.
Same goes for toolbar items. If you're never going to be using a linear and logarithmic switch, there's no reason to keep it there. Just disable it. You play around with the zoom out, you play around with the back button, you're like, you know what? I like the zoom out better, and I kind of, the users feel like it's easier to understand. Get rid of the back button. Keep just the zoom out button. Or even better, don't give them the zoom out button. Tell them, hey, there's going to be a reset. The reset basically means whenever this is filtering something. So until you start to move the chart around, like for example, if I drill down into quarter, you can see reset appears. If I click it, just goes back to the starting view. So you play around with these options, you give them the possibilities, you showcase what's available, because the end user doesn't really know what he wants. It's your job to kind of figure these things out and play around with the offers. Um, these sort of approaches, sure, I don't see all the values, but that is also understandable because there's just too much data available. So play around with the layouts. Definitely create a separation between the charts. Do not submit reports like this. What I mean by this is there you can see there's no layout, right? Everything is white on white, and it's kind of hard to understand where everything is positioned. So create some sort of a layout, because layouts mean structured. People like structured things. It gives them a sense of sort of direction. Whereas everything that is uncontrolled and chaotic, they spend more time trying to figure out what is represented by what is meant by what is going to be affected by what, and so forth. Something that you always must have in every single report, guys, do not forget about this. It's very important. It's a reset button. How do I make a reset bookmark? Very simple. You make sure that you're currently not using any filters, or if there are any predefined filters, that those are the only filters that you want to have there. Once you have it, view option, open up bookmarks, and just create a new bookmark. There you go. Reset button created, theoretically. Now it's just a matter of actually creating a button. So insert, buttons, blank, for example. You can take any of those buttons and style them. Enable action, say that it's going to be a bookmark. My new bookmark is bookmark 3. Style is going to be a text. The text is going to be, for example, yeah, let's keep it like that. Fine.
Yeah, keep it like that. Look
I'll take
cool. That look cool.
it. And then on hover, I'm going to say that, hey, make it bold and, for example, increase the size letter. So whenever I hover over it, kind of feels more like a button. So now, if I filter out something here, if I select something here, I click on here, just do random selections. Now I'm lost. I can always just reset and start all over. All right. So, questions.
Questions?
Is there any technique you use to improve the theme? Uh, it depends on how predefined the theme already exists. So, for example, if you have a theme color palette that you try to follow, I use that primarily. If you just want to adjust a few smaller things, remember, you don't have to start completely from scratch. You can use one of Power BI themes. Like, for example, I don't know, let's say I'm using this one, but then you say, okay, I didn't really like this color, right? So you can customize current theme. There's not a lot of things you can do from this built-in customizer, but it is something that you can utilize. If you have availability, use ChatGPT. He knows how to do these things as well. I've tried it. Actually, it does pretty decent job as well. And there's a bunch of different theme customizers online tools where you can select different things, apply different things, and use them as well.
not all the time. Sometimes,
Yeah, yeah,
the people you're working with, they have their own brand identity and color palette and blah 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 blah. So you start picking up from them, and sometimes they don't. So I normally go to the website. Okay, I check the website, check the color, try to check what font that the font. I'm not gonna be able to replicate it, but check it out.
hmm,
Okay, and I pick up all the information from the website and then create my color palette. And normally you can prepare a very simple JSON file with a couple information, the
yeah.
color palette, and no more than that. Or you can come here and enter the code manually. Okay, can you open the
The JSON file.
yeah no the current thing,
Oh yeah,
customize current thing.
customize current.
Okay, so when I change everything there, I go to the text
Yep.
and I start picking up my phone.
Hmm.
Okay, in everything. That's it. I to start working with. I might have a chain of heart, and they say, well, this color I'm gonna change it for another one, and I will change it here. Um, One thing that you need to know is that if you change the color manually in a visual, it
Hmm.
override what it is in the thing. So that color will not change. You change the thing. Okay,
Yeah.
remember that.
So what Federico means by this, I remember I was struggling with it in the beginning because I was not understanding why are some things changing and some things are not. If you change the color and you select any of the existing colors from this palette, those are affected by the existing color palette. What I mean by this, so let's say I choose this dark green, right? You can see right here in progress, and I switch to a different theme. You can see it doesn't stick to the dark.
Mhm.
So what it did is it took this color which is positioned in a particular slot. What Federico means by custom color is if you physically choose more
Go
options
there.
and you enter a hex code that is different, or you move it around and say, hey, I don't know, this is going to be my color, right? So if I change this color, now changing the color palette to something that doesn't have that color, for example, yeah, completely blue, suddenly it why is this orange now?
Should not change. It doesn't change. It had done what I told you. It override the power of the thing to do anything about it.
Exactly.
And the same problem with Aivis explained a very good thing now is that you can select the color when you click in a donut chart. It gives you the same color palette. It gives you shades. Okay, of this donut chart in Power BI. When the donut chart change dynamically, it just come out with the funniest of the colors,
Oh yeah.
and you cannot be playing with all the possible
No, no.
colors. So it's a nightmare. Why only 3 pages? Okay, we normally have an average of 60, 70 entries per challenge. So if there are 3 pages for 10 is 210 pages that we need to put in a PDF that we need to judge and check all of them. If I give you free range, we will never finish doing the judging.
Yeah. And then
Okay,
it's
so
also kind of hard to determine, who did a better
exactly,
job. Is it the guy with 10
exactly.
pages or the guy
Okay.
with 2 pages?
Another thing is that it for everybody, it's not just for you. The one asking everybody 3 pages, you have to do your best in 3 pages. But you need to think about what I told you is the amount of work we have to do behind the scene to bring everyone this together and they judge it. So I think 3 pages. It used to be two.
Yeah.
It used to be two. So 3 pages, I think it is enough.
Yeah, it is. Because you have all these tricks. You have bookmarks, you have field parameters, you have different other options on how to have additional information, report page tooltips, and so forth. Performance wise, is it better to use bookmarks or field parameters? Performance wise, field
Depends.
parameters are probably going to feel more fluid, but there is distinguished difference between field parameters and bookmarks. With bookmarks, you can also switch, for example, chart types, which is not something you can do with field parameters. Field parameters are great if the original idea stays the same, but you're basically just changing values.
Yeah.
Bookmarks is good, for example, if, let's say, you're showcasing geographical information, but you're switching between something like a bar chart and a map visual.
And then there's a limitation. Parameters, if you have all normal values and then you put another measure that is a percentage, you have to do quite a lot of work in the
Yeah.
measure, in the parameters to actually to play in percentages. So there are limitations, and you need to know when to use one or when not to use another one. For me, if I can do with parameters, with a complication, I go parameters. Remember, bookmark, you understand them because you did report. Me might not understand them, the logic. Okay? So if only one bookmark per page, you just check one visual to another. Okay, but you have various visual in the page and there are 3 or 4 different bookmarks and combination, it will kill me.
Yeah. It's very hard to maintain. It's very hard to create a good working sample because suddenly, uh, for example, one thing that unfortunately I don't know what happened again, but Microsoft has broken the bookmark navigator. So
Really?
yeah, they fixed it and broke it again. I don't know what they're doing with it, but
Oh, I put in a report this morning. Thank
so
you. I had to take it off.
probably yeah, because what they did is even though, for example, let's say I'm gonna say a new bookmark, right, and you can see Euro is selected. Even if I have it selected when I'm creating the bookmark and I'm not excluding anything, I'm taking everything into account. If I go to a different selection and I use a reset, it's going to reset the chart, but not the bookmark navigator. So play around, see if it works properly, because sometimes, these little things, they just come up. They sneak up on you.
Yeah.
Can I add a tooltip? Yeah, sure. And also, I think we agreed on this, right, Federico? The tooltip pages are not considered pages as long as it's
No,
a
they are not
hidden page.
considered pages. No, they are not considered pages.
Yeah,
Neither I want you to do with bookmark 20 pages over one. Okay,
yeah.
bookmark you have different pages. I will pick it up and I will tell you, no, no, you've been naughty. Okay, and actually, I'm gonna tell you one thing. I'm trying to find it, and I think what is her name? I forgot her name. Recently, I found a very good photo. I'm trying to look for it. If I can, I will show you. How are we on time? It's too late for us, guys. Book money for quitters. Okay, it's easier for me. Okay, just to use bookmark for everything, than to work out or to do another page or to look for different solutions. So it's a Mac of tea, a Mac of coffee, and say bookmark is for quitters. Remember that. It's an MVP. I can't remember her name now. From Canada, I think she lives in Australia and Canada. I can't remember now. But it was a nice photo. I can't find it, but the less bookmark, the better. Parameter, field parameter, a lot easier to use and to work with. Weak
Yeah.
limitations.
But yeah, I hope it was interesting for you guys.
That's
I
it.
hope you
Yeah.
managed to learn something new out of all of this. If yes, then we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. If not, then do let us know so we know what we're doing wrong, right?
Yeah.
So we can fix it and figure
We
out what to do about it. But yeah,
and
thank you so much
we
for
have to go
joining,
now.
and we'll see you in the top 5.
Thank you, guys.